Most men think attraction is about looks, money, or the perfect pickup lines. But the truth is far more uncomfortable. Because the type of man every woman secretly desires is not the one who tries the hardest. It's the one who doesn't need to try at all. And once you understand this, you stop chasing women and start becoming the kind of man they naturally chase. Emotional control is more attractive than physical appearance or status because it represents something far deeper than surface-level qualities. Physical appearance can create initial attention and status can generate temporary interest, but neither of these factors can sustain genuine attraction on their own. What truly holds long-term psychological weight in attraction is a man's ability to remain steady in his emotions regardless of external circumstances. When a man is emotionally controlled, he is no longer reactive to validation, rejection, attention, or silence. He does not shift his identity based on how someone else behaves toward him. This creates a powerful sense of stability that naturally draws people in without effort or performance. Most people underestimate how exhausting emotional unpredictability can be in relationships. When someone reacts impulsively, overthinks situations, or constantly seeks reassurance, it creates tension and instability. Even if that person is physically attractive or socially successful, their emotional inconsistency weakens their presence. On the other hand, a man who maintains emotional control communicates safety without saying a word. He does not rush into panic when communication slows down. He does not chase clarity when silence appears. Instead, he observes, processes, and responds with intention rather than impulse. This kind of behavior naturally shifts the dynamic because it removes pressure from the interaction and replaces it with calm authority. Emotional control also reflects self-respect. A man who can regulate his emotions does not allow external validation to dictate his internal state. He is not dependent on compliments to feel confident, nor is he destroyed by criticism or rejection. This independence creates a quiet form of power that is far more influential than physical appearance. While looks may fade or lose impact over time, emotional stability becomes more noticeable as interactions deepen. People begin to recognize that this is someone who does not lose himself in temporary situations. That recognition builds attraction on a psychological level, not just a visual one. Another layer of emotional control is the ability to resist overinvestment too early. Many people mistake intensity for connection, but intensity without control often leads to imbalance. A man who is emotionally grounded does not rush to prove himself. He does not overtext, over-explain, or over-give in the early stages of connection. Instead, he allows things to unfold naturally. This restraint creates curiosity. When energy is not freely given away, it becomes more valuable. Emotional control ensures that attention is intentional, not automatic. This difference is what separates desperation from attraction. Status and appearance may open doors, but emotional control determines how long someone stays interested. A high-status individual who is emotionally unstable can still be perceived as overwhelming or draining. Likewise, a physically attractive person who lacks emotional regulation may initially attract attention but fail to maintain it. Emotional control, however, creates consistency in behavior, and consistency builds trust. Trust is the foundation of deeper attraction, even when it is not consciously recognized at first. There is also a silent dominance in emotional control that does not rely on force or expression. It is not about suppressing emotions, but about mastering them. A man who can feel without being controlled by what he feels becomes unpredictable in a grounded way. He does not react out of insecurity or fear of loss. Instead, he operates from clarity. This creates a psychological contrast that is naturally magnetic because it signals strength without aggression and confidence without arrogance. Purpose and direction in life create a form of masculine magnetism that cannot be replicated through appearance, charm, or temporary confidence tricks. When a man has a clear sense of where he is going, his energy changes in a noticeable way. He is no longer seeking validation from others because his focus is already occupied with something larger than himself. This internal alignment creates an unspoken signal of stability and ambition that others can instinctively feel. People are naturally drawn to individuals who are moving forward with intention because direction implies growth and growth implies value. A man without purpose often becomes reactive to his environment. His mood shifts based on attention, rejection, or approval from others. This creates a scattered presence that feels uncertain and unstable. Even if such a man has social skills or physical attractiveness, the lack of direction makes his energy feel incomplete. On the other hand, a man who is deeply invested in his own mission carries a different kind of presence. He is not easily distracted by temporary interactions because his focus is anchored in long-term vision. This makes him less emotionally available in a needy sense and more grounded in a self-defined path, which naturally increases curiosity and respect from others. Purpose also removes the desperation that often destroys attraction. When a man does not know what he is building in his life, he tends to seek external sources to fill that internal gap. He may overinvest in relationships, seek constant attention, or attach too quickly to emotional connections. This creates imbalance. But when purpose is present, relationships become a complement to life, not the center of it. A man with direction does not need someone to complete him because he is already engaged in his own development. This shift in mindset changes everything about how he is perceived. Instead of being someone who needs attention, he becomes someone who chooses where to place his attention. Direction in life also creates discipline, and discipline is deeply attractive in a masculine context. A man who wakes up with goals, who structures his time, and who consistently moves toward improvement is demonstrating control over his own existence. This control is not loud or forced. It is reflected in his habits, his decisions, and his consistency. People may not always consciously recognize discipline, but they feel its effects. It shows in how a man carries himself, how he speaks, and how he responds to pressure. There is a calm confidence in someone who is building something meaningful because their identity is not dependent on external chaos. Another important aspect of purpose is that it creates natural boundaries. A man with direction does not allow his time and energy to be consumed by everything around him. He becomes selective about what deserves his attention. This selectivity is not arrogance, but clarity. It signals that his life has structure and meaning beyond immediate gratification. This makes his presence more valuable because access to him is not unlimited. When someone is not always available, their presence becomes more significant when it is given. Purpose also transforms the way a man interacts socially and romantically. Instead of seeking approval, he operates from contribution. He is not trying to be liked by everyone. He is focused on becoming better at what he is building. This removes performative behavior and replaces it with authenticity. People are naturally more drawn to authenticity than perfection because it feels real and grounded. A man who is driven by purpose does not need to impress through exaggerated effort because his direction already speaks for itself. Detachment is more powerful than chasing or over-pursuing because it changes the entire emotional dynamic of attraction. When a man chases, he unconsciously communicates need. That need may not always be obvious in words, but it is always felt in behavior. Over-texting, over-explaining, constantly initiating contact, or trying to force emotional closeness too early creates imbalance. It shifts the energy from mutual interest to one-sided investment. Detachment, on the other hand, restores balance by removing urgency and emotional dependency. It allows space for genuine interest to develop naturally rather than being pressured into existence. Chasing often comes from fear of loss. A man starts to believe that if he does not act immediately, he will lose the opportunity or the person. This mindset creates anxiety-driven behavior. He begins to overanalyze responses, seek constant reassurance, and try to control outcomes that are not meant to be controlled. This kind of energy is easily felt in interactions, even when it is not directly expressed. It creates pressure, and pressure rarely produces attraction. Instead, it creates resistance. The more someone feels pursued without space, the more they instinctively withdraw, not because of dislike, but because attraction cannot survive under emotional suffocation. Detachment is not emotional absence, it is emotional independence. It means being able to engage without attachment to the outcome. A man who is detached is not emotionally unavailable in a cold sense. He is simply not dependent on immediate responses or validation. He is comfortable with uncertainty. If someone replies, he engages. If they do not, he continues his life without emotional disruption. This creates a powerful contrast because most people operate from emotional reactivity. When someone does not react the same way as others, they naturally stand out. Over-pursuing often destroys curiosity. Attraction thrives on mystery and space. When everything is given too quickly, there is nothing left to explore. A man who constantly reveals his interest without restraint removes the natural tension that builds connection. Detachment restores that tension by allowing distance to exist without fear. It creates a rhythm where presence and absence are balanced instead of one-sided availability. This balance keeps interest alive because the mind is always engaged in subtle uncertainty rather than predictable certainty. Another important aspect of detachment is self-respect. When a man stops chasing, he signals that his time and attention are not freely available to everyone. This is not about playing games or creating artificial distance. It is about recognizing personal value. A man who is detached does not place others on a pedestal. He does not over-prioritize someone who is not matching his energy. Instead, he allows mutual effort to define engagement. This naturally filters out imbalance and creates healthier dynamics where interest is reciprocated rather than extracted. Detachment also strengthens emotional control. When a man is not attached to outcomes, he is less likely to be affected by rejection or silence. He does not spiral into overthinking or emotional instability when things do not go as expected. This stability is felt by others as confidence. Confidence that is not dependent on validation becomes attractive because it is rare. Most people seek reassurance, but a detached man provides calmness instead of demand. There is also a psychological shift that happens with detachment. Instead of trying to win someone's attention, a man becomes focused on observing compatibility. He is no longer trying to force connection. He is evaluating whether connection exists naturally. This shift changes behavior completely. It removes desperation and replaces it with awareness. Instead of asking, "How do I keep them interested?" the mindset becomes, "Is this even aligned with me?" Detachment ultimately creates space for authenticity to emerge. When there is no pressure to perform, impress, or chase, interactions become more genuine. People reveal their true level of interest when they are not being pressured. This allows clarity to form naturally, without emotional distortion created by over-pursuit. Confidence that is rooted in validation from women is fragile because it depends on external approval that can change at any moment. When a man builds his sense of worth on attention, attraction, or response from women, his emotional state becomes unstable. A single ignored message, a delayed reply, or a lack of interest can disrupt his confidence completely. This kind of confidence is not real strength. It is dependency disguised as self-assurance. It rises when attention is received and collapses when it is withdrawn. That instability makes a man emotionally reactive, and emotional reactivity weakens presence. True confidence is not something that is granted by others, it is something that is built internally through self-respect. Self-respect means understanding personal value without requiring external confirmation. It is the ability to hold yourself to a standard even when no one is watching and even when no one is acknowledging it. A man who respects himself does not lower his standards to be accepted, nor does he change his behavior just to gain approval. This internal consistency creates a grounded identity that does not fluctuate based on external reactions. When identity is stable, confidence becomes natural rather than performed. Validation-seeking behavior often creates a cycle of emotional instability. A man seeks approval, receives temporary validation, feels confident for a short period, and then quickly returns to insecurity when that validation fades. This cycle repeats and gradually strengthens emotional dependence. Over time, confidence becomes tied to external sources instead of internal conviction. In contrast, self-respect breaks this cycle entirely. When a man does not depend on external validation, he no longer experiences emotional highs and lows based on attention or rejection. His confidence remains steady because it is anchored in his own perception of himself, not in the opinions of others. Self-respect also influences behavior in subtle but powerful ways. A man who respects himself does not over-pursue people who show minimal interest. He does not chase attention or force connections that are not reciprocated. Instead, he allows mutual effort to define engagement. This behavior is often misunderstood, but it is actually a reflection of internal security. He is not afraid of losing people who are not aligned with him because his sense of worth is not tied to their presence. This creates a quiet confidence that does not need to be announced or displayed. Confidence built on self-respect also changes how a man communicates. He speaks with clarity rather than hesitation. He does not over-explain himself to gain understanding or approval. He is comfortable with silence and does not rush to fill gaps in conversation out of nervousness. This calm presence creates a natural authority in interactions. People tend to feel more comfortable around individuals who are not seeking validation because there is no hidden pressure in the exchange. The interaction feels balanced rather than one-sided. Another important aspect is that self-respect eliminates desperation. When a man is not seeking validation from women, he is not trying to impress every interaction. He is selective with his energy. This selectivity creates value because attention becomes intentional rather than automatic. Instead of trying to be liked, he focuses on being aligned with his own standards. This shift removes the need for approval and replaces it with self-directed behavior. Confidence rooted in self-respect also creates emotional independence. A man does not allow rejection to define his worth. If someone is not interested, he does not internalize it as personal failure. He understands that attraction is not a measure of value, but a matter of compatibility. This perspective prevents emotional damage and maintains inner stability. He continues to operate from self-assurance rather than emotional reaction. Attraction is heavily influenced by psychological tension, and unpredictability plays a central role in creating that tension. When a man is fully emotionally available on demand, responding instantly to every signal, always accessible and consistently predictable in his reactions, the dynamic loses its depth. Everything becomes too certain, too familiar, and too easily accessible. While consistency is valuable in emotional maturity, excessive availability removes the sense of curiosity that keeps interest alive. Human psychology is naturally drawn to what it cannot fully predict or control, and this is where unpredictability becomes a powerful factor in attraction. Unpredictability does not mean instability or chaos. It refers to a controlled sense of emotional independence, where a man is not constantly reacting in the same way or operating on demand. When someone is not fully predictable, the mind stays engaged. There is always a layer of uncertainty that keeps curiosity active. This curiosity creates mental focus, and mental focus often translates into emotional investment. When behavior is too predictable, the brain no longer feels the need to engage deeply because everything is already known. There is no mystery left to explore. Emotional availability on demand often creates imbalance in how value is perceived. When a man is always accessible, always ready to respond, and always emotionally present, regardless of context, his presence starts to lose weight. It becomes expected rather than valued. In contrast, when emotional presence is given selectively and not as a constant reaction to every moment, it becomes more meaningful. The absence of over-availability creates contrast, and contrast is what makes attention feel significant. Without contrast, everything feels flat and emotionally neutral. Unpredictability also strengthens perception of independence. A man who does not structure his emotional state around others signals that his life is not revolving around constant interaction. He is not waiting to respond or constantly available to fill emotional gaps. Instead, his attention is guided by his own priorities. This creates a psychological impression that his time and focus are valuable and not automatically accessible. People are naturally drawn to individuals whose attention feels earned rather than freely given at all times. Another important element is emotional pacing. When someone is emotionally available on demand, interactions become repetitive and lose tension. There is no anticipation because everything is immediately accessible. Unpredictability introduces variation in emotional pacing. Sometimes there is engagement, sometimes there is space, sometimes responses are immediate, sometimes delayed. This variation creates rhythm, and rhythm maintains interest. Without rhythm, interactions become mechanical and lose emotional depth. This does not mean ignoring or manipulating. It means avoiding excessive emotional predictability where every reaction is the same and every response is immediate. When a man reacts too quickly to everything, he removes space for natural emotional development. Space is necessary for attraction because it allows the mind to interpret, imagine, and anticipate. Without space, everything is already defined, leaving no room for emotional curiosity. Unpredictability also communicates emotional self-control. A man who is not instantly reactive demonstrates that his emotions are not governed by external triggers. He is not controlled by attention, silence, or temporary changes in interaction. Instead, he remains internally steady, choosing when and how to engage rather than reacting automatically. This creates a sense of emotional depth because controlled unpredictability suggests that there is more beneath the surface than what is immediately visible. Over time, this dynamic creates stronger psychological engagement. When someone cannot fully predict behavior, they pay more attention. They observe patterns, look for meaning, and stay mentally involved in the interaction. This mental involvement naturally increases emotional interest. Predictability removes effort from the equation, while unpredictability reintroduces curiosity. In human psychology, curiosity is one of the strongest drivers of attention and emotional connection. Your standards are the clearest reflection of your self-worth because they reveal what you are willing to accept and what you are willing to walk away from. Attention from others can feel powerful in the moment, but it is not a reliable measure of value. Attention can come from curiosity, convenience, loneliness, or even temporary attraction, none of which define your actual worth as a person. When a man confuses attention with value, he becomes dependent on external validation, constantly adjusting himself based on who is watching, who is responding, or who is showing interest. This creates instability because attention is inconsistent by nature, and anything built on inconsistency cannot form a strong identity. Standards, on the other hand, are internal. They are not influenced by who is available or who is giving attention. They are based on self-respect and clarity about what you allow into your life. A man with strong standards does not lower himself just to be chosen. He does not overinvest in people who show minimal effort, nor does he chase validation that does not align with his values. Instead, he evaluates situations based on mutual respect, consistency, and alignment. This internal filtering system is what creates real value because it shows that his self-worth is not negotiable. Attention can often be misleading. Many people receive attention without having depth, direction, or emotional stability. Social validation can create an illusion of importance, but it does not automatically translate into respect or genuine attraction. A man who relies on attention to feel valuable becomes reactive. His confidence rises when he is noticed and drops when he is ignored. This emotional dependency weakens his presence because he is no longer operating from internal stability but from external feedback. In contrast, a man guided by standards remains steady regardless of attention. He does not change his behavior to attract more validation because his sense of value is already defined internally. High standards also create natural boundaries. Boundaries are not about rejecting people. They are about protecting self-respect. When a man has clear standards, he does not tolerate inconsistency, lack of effort, or emotional imbalance. He understands that not every connection deserves his time or energy. This clarity prevents him from entering situations that drain his emotional state. It also signals to others that access to him is not automatic. When something is not easily accessible, it naturally becomes more valuable in perception, not because it is scarce, but because it is intentional. There is also a psychological shift that happens when standards become the foundation of behavior. Instead of seeking to be chosen, a man begins to observe whether situations align with his values. This changes his entire interaction style. He is no longer trying to impress or win approval, he is assessing compatibility. This removes desperation from his energy. Desperation always reduces perceived value because it communicates dependence. Standards remove dependence and replace it with selection. Attention can fluctuate, but standards remain consistent. A man may receive attention one day and none the next, but his value does not change because his identity is not tied to external response. This emotional independence creates calmness in his presence. He does not overreact to interest or disinterest. He understands that attention is temporary, but self-respect is permanent. This understanding creates emotional balance that others can feel even without words. Standards also influence long-term outcomes in relationships and personal development. People who operate from strong standards tend to build healthier connections because they are not accepting imbalance. They attract relationships based on mutual effort rather than one-sided pursuit. Over time, this leads to environments where respect is naturally present because it was required from the beginning, not demanded later. When a man realizes that his value is not determined by how many people are interested in him, but by what he is willing to accept, his entire mindset shifts. He stops measuring himself through external attention and starts measuring himself through internal consistency. That shift is what separates emotional dependence from self-defined strength. Across the entire idea, one pattern stays consistent. Attraction, confidence, and respect are never built on excess effort or external approval, but on internal control. Whether it is emotional stability, purpose, detachment, self-respect, unpredictability, or standards, all of these qualities point back to one foundation: a man's relationship with himself. When that relationship is weak, everything outside becomes a source of validation and behavior turns reactive. When that relationship is strong, external circumstances lose their power to define identity and behavior becomes intentional instead of emotional.